Iran has warned the United States it will take action if an American warship returns to the Persian Gulf. It left the area when Iran started its 10-day naval war games, during which they successfully test-fired a number of different missiles. But Russia's defense ministry says that despite the latest military exercise, the Iranians don't have the technology to make intercontinental ballistic missiles. Meanwhile, France is pushing for stricter sanctions, as it says it's sure Tehran is developing nuclear weapons. It's urged EU countries to follow the U.S. in freezing Iranian central bank assets and imposing an embargo on oil exports. Tehran has been threatening to block the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most important oil routes, if the West stepped up its sanctions. Let's discuss this more with James Corbett, editor of the Corbett Report website. James, thank you for joining us. So France has been calling for tougher sanctions against Iran. Do you think Tehran's military exercises were a major factor in all of this?
I think that would have to be one of the factors, but I think it's quite remarkable to think that France and the U.S. and other countries would be willing to step up sanctions that have already had such a profound effect on the Iranian people on the basis of their hunch that Tehran is developing nuclear weapons, as France has basically put it. It's quite remarkable because that really is tantamount to an act of war, and really I think the only logical outcome for this is another increase in military tensions between the countries involved in that region that are already on the knife edge of military tensions. So it is quite an explosive thing to be talking about increased sanctions against a country that's already pretty much got its back to the wall on when it comes to the absolute embargo of the country in so many ways that's sending its own currency into a spiral. So I don't really see how this is meant to help the situation in any way, but will only probably likely increase the chance of some sort of military confrontation.
Well, Western countries have always voiced suspicions that Iran's nuclear program isn't peaceful. Do you think that there's an underlying reason for the timing of the tensions rising now?
There must be a number of things to this, and I think the escalation in recent weeks with the recent 10-day military drill in the Straits of Hormuz has to be weighing heavily on the minds of the U.S. and others. But I think really the idea that Iran would really close off the Straits of Hormuz or attempt to do so would only be an absolute last measure resort for a country that relies on the importation of refined gasoline and other things through the very straits that they would be ostensibly sabotaging and planting mines in. So it's quite remarkable to think that Iran would do that in any other situation other than they felt that the entire existence of their country was under threat. So again, I don't think it's a really credible threat unless they believe that the military tensions are going to boil over and turn into some sort of confrontation. And again, that's really due to these crippling sanctions that have been placed. So adding more sanctions to the mix is really just a recipe for military disaster, I think.
Iran has said today that it is ready to return to the negotiation table and discuss its nuclear program, yet the EU is reluctant to do so. Aren't talks something that the West should be looking for here?
I don't know what else the West should be looking for if they were truly concerned about nuclear weapons and somehow have the moral authority and international jurisdictions to tell other countries what they can and can't do with nuclear technology. But even considering that, the only possible outcome that they should be looking for in this situation would be further talks. To do anything else would be, to me, to be backing Iran again into that corner in order to increase military tensions. And it has to be kept in mind here that when these military tensions are increased in a place like the Straits of Hormuz, which is just such a small area, that not only can mistakes happen and mistakes occur that will be mistaken for military hostile acts that could then be used to springboard into further confrontation. But also it has to be remembered that in July of 2008, it was revealed by Seymour Hersh that Dick Cheney had actually planned on dressing up 4 to 5 U.S. boats as Iranian PT boats in order to attack American vessels and blame it on the Iranians in order for a pretext for war. That was revealed in July of 2008. So we have to understand that when these military tensions are increased to this point where anything can send them over the edge, then we could be seeing some sort of any sort of provocation being used as a justification for military confrontation in the region, which I don't think any of the citizenry of either Iran or the U.S. or France or any other country really wants at this point.
Now, some might argue that Iran's naval exercises were just an old-fashioned display of military strength rather than one of nuclear. Russia's military has said Iran isn't capable of creating a strategic missile. So is Iran really the threat it's being portrayed as?
I think Iran would like to portray itself as strong on the international stage, and I think other people in the region who are interested in their security would also like to other countries to understand that Iran won't be the same type of military confrontation that, say, the U.S. Faced in Iraq. It's going to be quite a different type of confrontation. But I think really when we talk about military confrontation in Iran, we have to start thinking about Iran's strategic allies in the area and the possibility of a much larger war that would draw in elements from all over the region, really, and start something much bigger than simply an Iran surgical strike or whatever might be hoped for in such a situation by the people who are planning such military interventions. So I think it's important to understand that it's not just the Iranian military that would likely be involved here, and we'd be looking at a much wider regional war.
Thank you very much, James Corbett, editor of the Corbett Report website.